You ever wake up and see something so strange, so out of place, that your brain takes a second to catch up? That was me, coffee in hand. Half asleep, walking toward the chicken coop, when my grandson Caleb whispers, "You smell smoke." I look up and sure enough, there's a black SUV parked just off the gravel windows, so tinted you'd think it was hiding state secrets. "That's not smoke," I tell him. "That's justice warming up." It had been parked there 3 days straight. No plates we recognized. Same shady characters inside. They weren't law enforcement, that's for sure. We knew who they were. HOA enforcers, rent-a-cops on a power trip. And the kicker, we ain't even part of the HOA. Haven't been for 10 years. Signed the opt-out forms myself. But lately the board's been trying to reel us back in with what they call community oversight. That's just a fancy term for spying with a clipboard. At first we ignored them. Figured they'd get bored. But then Caleb caught one of them on drone footage, saying, "This place is a code violation buffet." That's when Grandpa me decided enough was enough. See, I don't yell, don't threaten. I plan. That afternoon, I went to the old red shed, where I keep my tools and a few strategic leftovers from my time in the Army, and came out with a fire retardant kit and a map. We weren't going to do anything reckless. We were going to burn legal-like. Filed the paperwork same day. County approved it for weed control. Everything documented, signed, and registered. Next morning we started slow, me and Caleb. Drip torch in hand, lighting the grass line inch by inch right around that black SUV. Wind was just right. Fire moved steady, calm professional, just like we wanted. Thing is, I'd watered that section of soil the night before. So when the HOA guys panicked and tried to leave, their tires sank like a rock in a pond. Caleb flew the drone over, captured every bit. They were trapped in a ring of smoke, spinning tires, yelling into radios. My wife June brought out her phone and went live. "Morning, folks. We've got ourselves a rare sighting, wild HOA enforcers confused and cornered." The video blew up. Thousands watching live, laughing, commenting. Someone added banjo music. It was ridiculous. And perfect. Reggie, our sheriff's deputy, and June's cousin showed up later that afternoon. He looked at the SUV, then at me. "Well," he said, "you boys sightseeing, or just caught with your binoculars down?" They tried accusing me of endangerment. Reggie laughed. "You're on private land. He's got permits, you've got problems." But the HOA didn't back off. Next morning, we get an email, some polished nonsense calling our burn a reckless agricultural event. Then came another email talking about expanding HOA jurisdiction to buffer zones, which just happened to include us. Caleb printed it out. I used it to prop up the wobbly kitchen table leg. That's when June knew I was mad. So I took the truck into town, visited the courthouse zoning office, even the sheriff's station. Dropped off folders at every stop, burn permits, satellite photos, time-stamped video. Got it all on record. Then I called up Meredith from the Ag Board. She used to ride horses on our ranch, owes me one. That evening she emailed us a protection order. Ranch designated as active ag property. Any HOA interference officially obstruction. Meanwhile, Caleb and his cousin Miles built a plywood SUV with fake flames and parked it near the real one. Hung a sign, "Parking lot of shame." People came by to take pictures. HOA officers were humiliated. They finally drove off, bumping into one of my old fence posts on the way out. Reggie, still eating sunflower seeds nearby, rolled down his window and said, "That post is older than your entire charter." Next day we get hit with 17 code violations. Fence too tall, too many chickens, grass too lively, whatever that means. June laughed till she choked on her syrup. I didn't laugh. I wrote a full legal rebuttal, attached photos, case law, and a pecan pie, and something shifted. Neighbors started stopping by, sharing their own stories, yearns for wind chimes, threats over paint colors, surprise inspections that felt more like raids. So we cleaned out the old barn, strung up lights, and called a meeting. That night, nearly 40 families showed up. Farmers, teachers, young couples, old vets. I stood on a feed crate and said, "A fence is supposed to protect, not trap. If yours does both, it ain't a fence, it's a cage." Then I stepped down and let folks speak. One by one, they did. And with every story, the fire spread, not the grass kind, the truth kind. That's when Tanya stepped forward. Used to work at the HOA office. She handed me a folder. Documents, emails, audio clips. Karen, the board president, was on tape saying, "Make an example of Jenkins. If he gets away with this, they'll all stop obeying." That folder, we copied it, hand-delivered it to every house in the district, called it the transparency packet. Karen tried to sue. Judge took one look, tossed it out. Her final meltdown happened on the courthouse steps, screaming at reporters, the sky, even a random squirrel. We never saw her again. We rewrote the HOA charter, added transparency rules, banned surveillance, locked in our exemption. That summer, we hosted a barbecue, called it the Burn Line Bash. Played drone footage on the barn wall, served ribs and sweet tea. Nate built a sculpture of the trapped SUV out of scrap metal, flames and all. The plaque read, "Here lies the last trespass." A few days later, something unexpected happened. An old man named Earl, who used to defend the HOA tooth and nail, showed up at our gate. He had this beat-up clipboard under his arm, and a look like he'd swallowed a nail sideways. I figured he came to argue, but instead he handed me a jar of homemade jam and said I was wrong. That's it. No speech, no explanation. Just walked off, shaking his head. June watched from the porch, smiled, and muttered, "That's twice this week. Maybe we should open a confession booth." Then there was the letter. Handwritten. No return address. Just 3 words, "Thank you, Jenkins." Inside was a photo of a house paint peeling grass high, but it had a swing set in the yard and a little girl waving at the camera. On the back, scribbled in pencil, it said, "She plays outside now." I didn't tell the others for a while. I just slipped the photo into the drawer where I keep old receipts and war medals, where I put things that remind me why we fight the way we do. See, this wasn't just about fire or fences. It was about reminding people they're not alone. That someone somewhere still knows how to say no when it counts. And as we sat by the fire that night, watching the stars blink awake, Caleb asked me, "Think they'll ever try it again?" I sipped my coffee and said maybe, but not here. Not while we're still standing. Now I want to hear from y'all. Was it justice or just a good old-fashioned country standoff? Drop your thoughts below, and if you've ever had to stand your ground, tell your story. Because sometimes the only way to draw the line is to light it.